there, welcome to my kitchen. I'm so glad that you could join me today. Today I'm making cucumber mint jam. And it's a great accompaniment for a meat dish, perhaps with pork. Bosco's saying hello as well today. Jam or on crackers with cream cheese. It's just a wonderful jam that you can use so many different ways. And it's also a great way to use up some of those extra cucumbers you have from the garden. So I have all my equipment ready, I have my ingredients ready, so let's begin. So first off we have 4 cups of cucumbers that have been peeled, seeded and chopped into fairly small pieces. We have 3 tablespoons of mint, which has come from the garden as well, and it has been chopped up and is ready here. We have cider vinegar, lemon juice, sugar and pectin. So let's get started. I start with my 4 cups of chopped cucumber. Let me grab my measuring spoon here. A half a cup of lemon juice, and I cheat by using the bottled stuff, it's just so much easier. So half a cup of lemon juice. I have to remember to put this on the shopping list. Half a cup of apple cider vinegar. Then the pectin also goes in here. And then I'm going to bring this to the boil. So this may take us a few minutes to get this to the boil. Let me get the burner turned on and we will start stirring this up. In the meantime, while this is coming to a boil, let me tell you some of the other things that I have prepared. I have in my sink to the right my canning jars. I'm using half-pint jelly jars. They've been washed. The rings and the lids are also washed and sitting in the sink full of hot water to stay warm. Because when I put this hot jelly mix into the jars need to be warm or they could crack and break. So what else do I have ready? I have my pot that I'm going to process the jars in with the water starting to heat for that, so it won't take long to come to the boil. When the time comes, it'll be ready for me to use. And I have a kettle with some more water coming to the boil, because when I process these jars, the water has to stay above the jars at all times. So once I get the jars in there, I have to make sure I have enough boiling water, and then I have to keep that quantity of boiling water up. So this may take a few minutes, so we might put the camera on pause and then come back when this is boiling. So now our mixture is boiling. A rolling boil has to boil its way for 1 minute. Just remember we have our cucumbers, we have our lemon juice, our apple cider vinegar and our pectin in the pot boiling away for 1 full minute. And mix her up a little bit more. And in a moment I'm going to add the sugar, which I'm going to add all at once. And that's a fairly important step, a very important step, that it must be all at once. Don't add it a little bit at a time. So I think we have probably been a full minute boiling now. Just give it a few more seconds just to be sure. And add the sugar all at once. And mix it in and then bring it back to the boil again. So unfortunately, I'm not good enough with the camera yet to be able to lift the camera off and show you what's in the pot here. Hopefully another video or two in and I'll be able to do that. But for right now it's getting ready to come to the boil again. And it must boil again for 1 full minute. So it's not quite there yet because when I stir it, it's off the boil, so it has to be boiling to where it still boils even though I'm stirring it. So this may take another minute. So bear with me and we'll get this just about ready. Another 30 seconds or so maybe. Turn my kettle down, it's boiling here. And my other pot is close to boiling. But my kettle is definitely boiling and to turn down some more. Now there's a way to check this. Let me show you something. Shout out to my friend Susan who showed me this trick. That if you let drop a few drops onto a cold plate, and if it kind of gels when you tip the plate, then it is going to be ready. I might just leave this for a tiny bit longer. Let's turn that. Oh, okay, I'll tell you what, I turned the wrong dial. I turned the front burner down and left the back burner up really high, so that didn't help any, did it? So there's my first blooper. But get this back up to the boil again. Make sure it's not sticking to the bottom of the pot. She's boiling now, so this should be ready any minute. So let's try this again. A couple of drops onto a cold plate. And it runs a little, but not much. So another 30 seconds. That's a bit longer than the minute I said it was going to take. But hey, that's cooking for you, isn't it? That's why they call it an art. Or an experiment. Maybe it's more of an experiment. I think it is in my case. Let's try this again. That'll do. I think we're there now. Okay, so it says then to remove it from the heat, skim off any foam. Now I don't typically have much foam in my jellies and jams. So let's take it off the heat. And I am not going to mess with skimming. Oh, there is a little foam, which is unusual for me. I don't normally have foam. But such a tiny little bit, I'm not going to worry about it. And throw in my mint. And stir it up. And it is ready now to put in my jars. I'm going to put it back over here because I need the space. Plus that'll keep it hot while I'm getting it put in the jars. Okay, so let's do 2 jars at a time because I know I can't handle more than 2 at a time. So let's see, here's my funnel, here's my scoop, and let's go ahead and put her in the jars. Now, this recipe calls for 1/4 inch of head space. So this is where this little doohickey comes in handy, because it has measurements. You just put it on the shoulder of the jar and it will give you the amount of measurement you want. So for 1/4 here is one measurement, so I'm probably about 1/4 inch short on this one. Put a little bit more in. Could use just a little more. Sometimes I get it first go, other times I have to mess with it. But that's a little deep. We'll get to that in a sec. And that is perfect. So let's kind of take a tiny bit out of this one. There we go. So you also use this to make sure there's no air bubbles by just running around the top of the jar. If there's any air bubbles caused by the food, it will get rid of those air bubbles for you. Now we have to clean the rim of the jars, because if any food has gotten onto the rim, it will stop the lids from sealing properly. So what I usually do is just use a wet damp paper towel. You could use your regular kitchen towel. Wipe the lip of the jar so that there is no residue from the food. Then you take your 2-part lid and ring. This is the lid. Put the lid on. Put the ring on. I'll do the same for the other jar. Then I will use a towel to hold the jar because it's very hot. And I will tighten the lid up hand tight. Then I'm going to put the jars into the insert for my pot while I do the next couple of jars. And we do the same thing over again. But I might do 3 here. This will be good. This will be really good. This is the second time I've made this particular recipe. I made it earlier in the season and my family loved it, so that's why I wanted to do some more. I'm kind of going to do these sort of 3 a bit at a time. That should keep the amount of liquid and the amount of fruit fairly even between the jars. Sometimes I don't do that. I'll do just a couple at a time because I want to make sure I don't run out before I've got full jars. But I think we're good here. I'm going to get these 3 without any trouble. So the recipe that I'm using today comfortably makes 5 pints. I'll have about a spoonful left in the pot when I'm done. So let me check my headspace. Pretty close this time. I'll put just a tad more in that jar, in that jar, and take a tad out of that one. Rarely get them exact first go. Kind of depends what you're making. There we go. Very good shape now. So let me get my damp paper towel again. Wipe the rims and the sides of the jars. Same with this one. Make sure I haven't missed any. Because yeah, they won't seal properly if they are not clean when you start. So there we go. I think we're in good shape. Get some lids and rings on here. And out with the water here so that they're... These don't have to be pre-sterilized because my time for processing is going to be 10 minutes. When the time is 10 minutes or more, the jars need to be clean, but they don't need to be sterilized to start with, because the 10 minutes in the boiling water will sterilize everything and get it nice and clean. So tighten up the lid, put her in the basket, just hand tight on the lids. Try not to bang anything and break anything. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Talk about a blooper. That'd be a real blooper, wouldn't it? So I have my 5 jars in the basket and my water is boiling. I will put them in. I've got about a 1/2 inch cover in those jars, so I will need a little bit more. But I want to show you a tip. I am going to put a little bit of vinegar in this water. We have fairly hard water, and the vinegar helps keep stops the calcium deposits from collecting on the jars and on the inside of the pot. So I'll just throw a little bit of vinegar in there. Add some more water so that the jars are covered by at least 1 inch. That is boiling, so I can put the lid down and I can begin timing. This needs 10 minutes, so I'll put my timer on. And it's very important that they are processed for the full time, because that keeps everything safe, and that's what we want. We want all our food to be safe. So I'm going to pause again because there's no reason for me to ramble for 10 minutes. So let's pause the camera and come back in about 10 minutes. Hi there, so it's been 10 minutes, so now our jars should be ready to come out of the pot. And just a word of caution on that as well. If you're at an elevation above sea level of greater than 1,000 feet, your time for processing will need to be adjusted. So make sure that you're following all of the safety regulations and procedures associated with your elevation or anything else that may apply to you. So we're here to have fun, and I might forget to tell you something or give you some advice. So just make sure that you're following the recipe that you have. If you're ever in any doubt, sometimes when you get a recipe online, the information might not quite sound right. And when that happens to me, I'll check with the Bold Blue Book or a local extension service or some other good quality source of information to help you out to make sure you get that right. So let's check on our jars. So I turned the pot off a minute ago. It's still simmering just a little. And I will use my handy dandy jar lifter to get these out of the pot without burning myself. So you pull them straight out. Oh, that looks nice and clear. Put that on a trivet. And these jars will need to sit undisturbed for 12 to 24 hours. And then you check the seals and make sure that everything is sealed well. A couple of different ways to do that. Let me get these out and I'll talk about that just a little more. So that is my 5 jars of jelly. And just to show you a jar that I can't really handle those, so here's the jar that I did from the last batch, just to show you how good that looks, and it tastes even better. So when you have let the jars sit to cool for 12 to 24 hours, leave them undisturbed, and then check that they're sealed. So you can take the ring off. They do not have to be stored with the rings on once they're sealed, but make sure that there's a slight dip in the lid, and sort of give it a bit of a whack with your thumb. Just make sure that that's sealed really well, and then you know that's ready for storage, if you can store it without eating it right away. So it makes great gifts as well. So I hope you had fun listening to this video, and I will be really pleased to see you back again next time for some tomato juice. Have a great day. Bye.